Still says off air.
Hey, here we go. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the first ever. We don't have a name yet. I proposed ground table, slight pun, golf pun there with grounding of the club. I know not everybody's super into it, but glad to have you guys here watching along. Kind of an informal showing here tonight. We've got Christian, the Bird, the Albatross, Mike Leone, one of DailyRoto's original, and James McCool as well. Everybody kind of tagging along here. The goal of this is more or less just to have a good time, talk a little bit about golf, about PGA DFS, whatever might happen to come up, and build some lineups and really just have some fun in an informal setting, aside from the podcast format that we're bringing you every single week in a bit more formal structure base. So this week, I'll let these guys, kind of jump in here and say what they might be feeling about the night and if they're looking forward to talking about anything in particular. I guess I'll start with you, Mike. Are you excited for the ground table? And if you are not, or you are, do you have a better name proposed?
I don't have a better name proposed, but I'm sure Dink can come up with something that's probably better than what you came up with, which isn't surprising. But no, it'll be fun to do this. This is our first one of these, so bear with us as we it's kind of trial by fire here. We'll get these more organized as we go on, or maybe we won't get them organized because it's fun to be chaotic. But as far as topics, first thing that jumps out to me this week is we get the crazy pricing again that's just super, super loose. And it's really easy to make a star-studded lineup. I mean, Jason Day at 10K. Generally, when you're fitting Jason Day into your lineup, you have to make some sacrifices, some guys who are risky to make the cut. And this week, you don't have to do any of that. So I'm assuming you guys are all locking Day in cash. Is that correct?
Absolutely, for me. Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's going to be a cash team I play without Day. Tournaments, I guess still got to think about what I'm going to do there. But, definitely that's the play for me.
I'll second that notion. He feels grossly underpriced, as do a lot of other players in this field, but I'm not jumping off the Day bandwagon. Or maybe I guess I'm getting on the Day bandwagon. James, are you going to be the odd man out, or what's the deal here?
Man, that's usually my thing to do, is to try to be the contrarian one, but I don't think that I can get away from Day today. He's so underpriced in relative to the people around him. He's just so much better. So I don't think I would get away from him in cash. Maybe in tourneys, but I mean, who else are you going to go to? Adam Scott? Adam Scott's not better than Jason Day. So I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure there's a player in the field or in the world that's really better than Jason Day, and that's maybe a conversation more designed for you, Christian. Do you actually think there's anybody better than Jason Day? Like, if you've got to be the official world golf ranker, or is it Jason Day at the top?
Is it Jason Day at the top? Oh man, it's tough. It depends on what you're, what kind of data you're looking at. If you're looking at the last 4 weeks, no. If you're looking at the last year, yes. If you look at the last 2 years, then Spieth kind of comes back into the conversation. You also can make arguments for, I think, Henrik. Those are kind of and maybe even Hideki, depending on your window again, right? If you say that Hideki's tournament riddled 2016, at least early on, doesn't really count as much because he was injury riddled, then he certainly gets into that conversation too. We have so many elite golfers in the world, and kind of my mantra is just going to play the one that's the most underpriced, because I really have no idea who's better, right? Because we take different slices of data, and it's really tough to know exactly.
Yeah, Mike, my guess is that you think that Anirban Lahiri is the best golfer in the world.
Bro, Lahiri's my dude. He's long off the tee, and no one's going to play him this week at that price. I got 5%, and I really can't condone anybody else doing that. But because I love him, I've got him in mass multi-entry.
Yeah,
I like golf. I like golf because you can play the guys you like and get away with it in tournaments. You can play a little bit of the guys you just happen to like, whereas other sports, sometimes it's just egregious to do that. Whereas golf, I feel as long as you're not liking absolutely terrible players, which I guess maybe you could say Lahiri is, you can at least play him.
Yeah, well, I think the thing with Lahiri is that I don't think he's a horrible player, but he might be a horrible play because of where he's priced relative to some of these other guys. Oh, he's 7,700. There's so many other players in that range that I'm just scrolling through his name like a lot? Like is there one player that you're just like scrolling through and you're stopping on a lot? It's not Lahiri, right?
No, it's definitely not Lahiri. I'm still figuring out this camera thing, by the way, so hopefully I've got it on the people that are actually talking. But Christian, another one of my, BFFs in golf is Tony the Tiger Finau.
No. Yeah.
And he's not rating well in the Alba projections, but he's really long off the tee. It's a long course, favors the longer hitters. Bubba won 2 of the last 3 years. You have any Tony exposure in MME?
Oh, definitely. I'm going to have Tony some in MME. I mean, I'm not touching him in cash because I don't think the price makes sense given everybody else around him and opportunity cost. But I don't know. He's going to win this tournament. I don't know, maybe like 0.5% of the time, or I don't know what the exact number we have, but and he's going to be top. Top 5, maybe 2-point-something%. So I have to have him in at least that many teams. Right in practice, I'm probably going to be like a 5% sprinkle for him, maybe 10, which I think is where the market's going to be. I mean, he's been a little bit higher owned than I'd expect, so you might see people on him more. But I think that 5-10% range is where I'll be.
I love that Christian has the probabilities known off the top of his head.
I guess estimates.
Pretty impressive there.
That's literally insane.
Yeah, that's his role, though.
Yeah, that's what I do here, right? Yeah, I mean, everybody else has their own thing.
I know, Logan, we have some questions, mostly from Drewby, to answer. And if anybody is, watching this, tweet at me, tweet at DailyRoto, and leave some questions, and we'll try and answer them. Before we get into questions, though, I know we hit on Day as like a rock in cash. Anybody else have any cash game thoughts they want to get out before we hit up questions?
I think you
Brooks
should
Koepka or
I think you should
sorry, go ahead, Chase.
I think you could use Dustin Johnson in cash if you're going to pay up a little bit past Jason Day.
Double expensive or instead of Day?
I mean, I don't think there's enough value to use them both. But I think that if you wanted to avoid Jason Day, just because of how volatile this sport really is, Dustin Johnson is longer off the tee.
I'm losing you a little bit, James.
Same. Whoa, what?
Your video feed was jumping. Oh, maybe it's me.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Dustin Johnson, I think, is probably the only other person that you really, really want in cash other than Jason Day for me. If I have a little bit extra spending, I think that Dustin Johnson wins the tournament. So,
whew.
Yeah,
that's what this is for. So not all your takes. All right, Logan, you were talking about Brooks. He's one of my dudes. So,
yeah,
get the Brooks spiel.
Yeah, Brooks. Christian talked about it on the podcast last night, which if you haven't listened to, here's the plug for it. You can find us on Podbean, iTunes, DailyRoto Fantasy Golf. Take a listen to the podcast. Anyway, though, really, it doesn't make any sense for him to be 7,100. Christian noted that this is a top 20 golfer. Even if you want to extend, even if he's a top 30, top 35, top 40, does it make sense for him to be priced down to 7,100 in this field? Again, the note in the pro tip is like this is 52% stronger this field than most other tournaments. So you're getting a decent field here. You're getting a lot of like good names up at the top. But Koepka is, even in all these fields before, is historically the 81 to 86 range. And that's probably a lot more accurate. Now he's 71. Like, what gives? It's not like he's gotten worse. There's no reason to assume that.
We've seen him pretty consistently last year in the high 8s, even the 9s, if I remember correctly. The interesting thing is, I think he'll be popular because he's an obvious name and an obvious value, but I don't know if he'll be insane chalk, just because I think was it Fanshare that tweeted out there are a few guys at 7,100. Of course, I'm forgetting. One of them was Steele. I think it was Steele and JB Holmes, and they said, who would you take? And Steele actually won at 40% of that Twitter poll, and Steele and then Brooks and Holmes were at 30% each. So I think they'll be popular, but even with this loose pricing, making some guys obvious values, it's loose pricing for everybody. So there are a lot of different values, a lot of different ways to build where it might not get, crazy chalk. So I'm still going to have a lot in GPP along with cash.
Okay, so let me interject here. Then we're talking about a lot of different ways to build. Drewby, the guy from DailyRoto.com, asked about whether or not weather this week, what it's going to be like. And I know the forecast, I haven't looked at them too closely. We just sent out an alert for premium subscribers at DailyRoto.com about the forecast and stuff. Are you guys stacking up one set here, one slide of tee times? Christian, do you have any thoughts on this?
To be honest, I have not looked at weather really at all. It's something that I generally look at, and I know people are really talking about it, and I should, and I'm going to do that later tonight. I was looking forward to what you guys have to say about this, so I can kind of pre-direct my research a little bit. But I have not. I know that it's a thing. I know there might be some play there, but I'm not quite sure what it is.
What I'm seeing is it's going to be pretty bad, except for Thursday AM looks good, and then I guess Thursday looks pretty good, and then Friday it gets real rainy and it gets a lot of wind. The Friday afternoon looks pretty bad, but the issue is, and I'm still kind of a golf noob, so I'm not on top of all the nuances of this and how they do the delays and whatnot. But I think the issue is if it rains a lot Friday and there's delays, we don't know exactly when guys will end up teeing off. So if you wanted to avoid Friday afternoon because the wind is going to pick up then, well, you might not necessarily be avoiding Friday afternoon if there ends up being delays because of the rain earlier, if that makes sense. So I need to look a little closer as well. But the way I'm looking at it now is it's going to play a factor, but I don't know exactly who's going to be most impacted, and I probably won't pay too much attention to it. The one thing I talk about with Drewby is we always like to stack in some GPPs all one tee time, all early Thursday, all late Thursday, just because if something weird happens, we can't predict exactly when the weather comes, but you want that added upside of correlation in a GPP that if you get lucky with all 6 in the one wave or all 6 in the other wave, you can pick up some strokes, even if you're not exactly sure ahead of time who's going to benefit the most.
Can I let you guys know that it's 9:45 p.m. on Wednesday and that lineups lock not that far from now? I understand that, Christian, you're on the West Coast. James, you're over there too. You guys are like night owls, and so you'll be building all night long. But some of us have an alarm going off in a few hours. I got to start building teams right now. Literally right now. I don't have many teams built and need to be doing them right now. And you guys don't even know what you're doing in terms of weather yet.
Dude, you just back off, Logan. It's not our fault you've got a job that you have to get up at 5 a.m. or whatever.
That's right, Logan. You need to go back to your day job. Let me just say something. Looking at this is Adam, and this is my first time on a podcast, so
we never let him come on. He gets so mad.
Never let me on, but I'm on right now. But let me tell you something. Friday, everyone is going to be wet. It's going to be a total disaster. So the real advantage is looking at the early tee times. I don't know. I guess it doesn't really matter on Saturday.
You sounded so smart for
had us going. Yeah.
And then I mean, I thought the same thing. I was looking at if it's going to be crappy all day Friday, who knows? But
yeah.
Well, there's not from weather, so we can stop talking about how we don't know how it's going to impact.
HP3, baby. HP3. Go Pirates. Here we go.
There's flood warnings for Friday, man.
It's a total disaster in Southern California, man. Watch out.
Something.
What city is this course?
I just think the best way to go about it, if you're gonna try to stack a day, go with the early tee time on Friday. Try to avoid those later guys, because if it gets postponed and the later tee has to be pushed to Saturday, they're gonna have to play all day. A lot of these dudes trying to walk 6 miles and playing the entire day because a monsoon ruined the tournament. That's the only place I'm gonna put it.
Yeah,
I don't know, man. It's gonna rain. It's gonna mess with some stuff.
Let's.
You're right, though, Mike. We should move on from weather.
What city is this course in? Just so I can look it up.
It's in Los Angeles, dude. It's in Los Angeles. It's Los Angeles. Which is weird. It never rains in LA, right? The weather in Los Angeles is beautiful, but it's gonna be a total disaster, man. It's gonna be a disaster.
Look at you. You got your beer. You got your,
Dude,
lounge chair.
Look, man, I'm here with my boys. We were watching UVA Duke. I'm just swinging by to check you guys out, and I promise it won't be too much of a distraction. But I know that Christian is a Duke guy, so we got this on for him.
Ron Paul wants to know what you're drinking.
So this is from No Doubt Brewing, and I'll tell you, RP, Ben, I got you. I know I owe you a 4-pack of Hop Drop and Roll, dude. I have not forgotten that. I owe that to you. I will send that to you. But this is not a Hop Drop. This is actually a Kavu, which is pretty weak. It's not that great, but it's late, man. Come on, give me a break. It's good beer, though.
So just looking at the weather, just to go back to it, my take is Friday AM or Thursday PM is a little better. Just wind, basically the precipitation is high the whole day, but I'd rather play in only rain than wind and rain. I mean, there's still that postponed thing that could end up actually helping the Friday PM guys, but where they play on Saturday. But I definitely like the Friday AM based on wind.
All right, Logan, let's go to another question here.
Yeah, let's get to some other stuff. I know Nelson Adcock also had the weather question, so hopefully we hit on a bunch of that stuff. A lot of weather talk. Weather's boring. Also, we'd rather talk about some of the actual plays that we can use here. And Drewby wants to know again, this is kind of off the cuff. We don't have a lot of questions here, so we're gonna pick from Drewby again. Who is the one player you won't have exposure to that scares you the most? The one guy that you're going to be fading, the Charles Howell III in cash that you don't have and 60% of the guys do. Who's that one guy that you're fading that you're afraid to fade? I'll let you guys start just so I'm not taking someone away from you. Christian, do you have a guy to start with?
Yeah, for tournaments, it's going to be probably – I might play him 5%, but it's going to be an effective fade when the fields could probably have 15%. It's Jimmy Walker. I think a lot of people think he's really good, and I don't think he's really good at all. I think he should be maybe a 7K guy. I think he's 8.8 or something crazy like that. It makes no sense.
Christian, who's better? Sorry, who's better, Anirban Lahiri or Jimmy Walker?
Ooh, it's close. It makes me think, actually, and I think most people would say Walker, but I think it's not as obvious. I would actually need to look at it. I don't have a snap. I would say
Mike was listening intently.
Probably, I don't know. Who would I take in a heads up? I might take Lahiri. I don't know.
Woo!
Yeah, I might take.
Okay, James, give me one guy you're afraid to fade.
Man, I've been talking about fading Koepka all day, and I still think I'm there. I know that he's gonna be super round. He's gonna be up there in the 30% range, and I don't ever want anybody that's gonna be 30% in golf. One bug flies in front of that club as it's hitting a ball, and now you have a bogey. I'm just not about it. It's too volatile. I don't want somebody that's gonna be that highly owned. But with the recent being maybe not the most owned $7,100 player, I don't know. But as of right now, it's Koepka.
Okay, Koepka. I would be afraid to fade him as well because he's going to dominate and everybody's going to love it. Mike?
Yeah, I'm trying to look. I do the spread the risk strategy, so I've got at least a little piece of all the top guys. I guess I spread out the expensive guys. It's so easy to fit them in that I probably have as much, close to as much Scott, DJ, Hideki, Spieth as I do Jason Day. So in tournaments, I might actually be light Day, even though I have close to 30%. I'm assuming he's going to be really, really high owned. And if I am somewhat with the field, then that just doesn't seem like it makes sense. So I guess Day, it'd probably be better for me if one of the other top guys won, just because they'll be lower owned and I have almost the same exposure.
I'll give you mine. It is not Harold Varner III. I know, Adam, you were waiting to hear that.
That's such bullshit.
I'm not afraid to fade him. He was mentioned on the podcast yesterday, though, by Christopher Pacheco. Shout out to Pacheco. I'm not sure why he's not here. He kind of just sleeps at these weird times. And then stays up all night. Anyway, my fade guy that I'm afraid to fade is Spieth. in my opinion, the way that the pricing is here and the day thing at 10K, gravitating towards him is particularly in cash games, but these other guys too, like why is there such a discrepancy between Spieth and Matsuyama and DJ? You're still looking at like $1,000 difference. Is he $1,000 better than DJ or Matsuyama? I don't think so. That's why.
So you're afraid of fading the guy who's going to be the lowest owned of the top guys.
Is he really going to be the lowest owned though? Is that? I mean,
I don't think so. I don't think he will.
He'll be either.
Who do you think will be the lowest owned? Hideki?
I think it'll be Hideki. I think Hideki's the lowest owned, and then followed by Scott, DJ, Spieth, and then I think Day will ultimately be the highest owned there. But people are going to play him because he just won last week, and he was awesome. Rightfully so. You should get some ownership on this guy, especially because you can. But the thing is here, because you can, I think people are going to gravitate towards him. And to me, it doesn't make any sense to have to make a decision between a Spieth and then like a Hadwin or something like that in that 6 range when I could do like DJ and then pay for somebody like Phil or something different in that like 7, closer to 8 range. I don't know if those actually work out to be, an equal 2v2 in terms of salary, but I don't see any reason to make that little difference of a jump here. I know you can, but that's where I'm fading is Jordan Spieth at the top. No reason for him to be $1,100 more than Matsuyama and $1,200 more than DJ. You think he's worth that much, Mike? You think he's worth 12.6?
No, I don't think he's worth 12.6, but I think the pricing's so loose that he's got a pretty decent win probability. If you take him and he wins, you're going to need to have him in your lineup because the pricing's so loose. You're still going to get good golfers all the way through. I've got right now. Let's see here. I'm trying to see how much Spieth I have. I've got 21% Spieth, but you can get Brooks on those lineups, Kuchar on those lineups. You can get a secondary stud. You can do a Spieth day lineup without a ton of trouble. There's just so many routes to be able to fit him in that I still like him. So I'm at 21% Spieth right now is what it comes down to. I know that's a weird odd number.
Yeah, I think he's a reason. Sorry, Christian. I think he's a reasonable play. I'm fading him, and I'm afraid to do it. That was part of the section. I guess maybe I deviated a little bit there, but I am afraid to fade him because he is Spieth. But I gave you my rationale for fading him. Christian, what were you going to say? Sorry about that.
Oh, I think Scott will actually be lower owned than Hideki. I wouldn't know if we considered Scott in that pool of high.
You're making me want to pound some Adam Scott now.
Yeah, I mean,
isn't that your guy, James?
Low owned last year, even when he was winning.
I refused to play him because I was like, oh, he'll be too high owned, and then he just kept winning, and I didn't play him, and he wasn't high owned, and that's when I started changing my strategy to hey, maybe don't full fade the guy who's most likely to win the tournament.
Well, look, I mean, Adam Scott at 10.3 is only 300 more than Jason Day. If we think that Jason Day is going to be the highest owned of those guys, Adam Scott is not going to be highly owned. I mean, why would people go Adam Scott if they're going to just pivot to Day?
I don't know, man.
I think
let's go the other way with this. Who's the guy that you're going to take that's going to win you a GPP? Instead of the fade you're afraid of, who's the guy you're taking a lot of that's going to win it for you? Logan, you can kick it off this time.
I said it last night. I'm not going to deviate from it. Well, actually, Christian, you kind of said at the end there, but I really like Luke List at 6,400. Kind of ride or die on the Luke List train here.
Full fade.
He's been List. Yeah, he's been not so good. I mean, with reason, it's okay that you're fading him, but he's been not so good. He's the guy that I really like down there, and Albatross is my overlord, and Albatross always loves Luke List, so I love Luke List. And it's stupid.
He's not Andrew crazy Luke. High in Alba this week, though.
You just sprinkle.
Hey, Logan, are you sitting in a prison cell right now? I mean, it looks literally like you are in jail. Are you okay, man?
This is my bedroom, man. It's a small bedroom.
You look like a prisoner somewhere. All right. Okay. All right, cool. So here's the guy that you cannot fade in a GPP, baby. You know who it is, Mike Leone. You know who it is, baby. It's HV3, the Pirates. You can't ever fade the Pirates. Let's go. HB3 this week for the win. GPP.
Wow.
Somebody mute this guy.
All right, I'll give my one guy that I have a ton of is Sergio Garcia, because you guys know I love Sergio. And how much hockey do you think he's going to be? I mean, he's definitely not going to be low owned, but I'm pretty sure I'll be over on the field. Christian, you got any?
I haven't Sergio.
On
Sergio, 93. I don't know. He's like a 20% guy for me, maybe.
What do you think the field's going to have? 20%.
Field. Yeah, I feel like the field's going to be around there. I mean, just looking at just based on his salary, you always have inflation of ownership at the higher price guys continuing to fill out a team. I think it's going to be more so the case this week because there's so many ways you could fill out teams and pay for those higher price guys. I mean, I think his field might have 20.
Yeah, I'm close to 35. I think 20 is right. I think he's a really good value, but it's so easy to go double studs if you wanted to, and then once you go double studs, you kind of have to skip by them. One cheap guy I have a sprinkle of is Jason Kokrak, whose name I'm sure I butchered. Logan, you'll make fun of me, but if you're doing a course fit guy, it's
Mike.
It's
did you just call him Mike? Did you just call him Kokrak?
That's his name.
That's how it's spelled, bro.
I thought it was Kokrak. I mean,
Kokrak.
Yeah, all right. Kokrak is quite unfortunate. I'm sorry to interrupt. I was interrupted. And
I'm not even putting the camera on you. I'm
right,
muting you, ejecting you.
Ah!
Not really. But I was fooling around with the shots gained stuff on the Albatross projections, and there's a lot of – we're saying distance is important. There's also a lot of approach shots from 150 to 200. So I just made some stupid formula kind of combining the approach shots and the driving distance, and he rated – pretty well in it, so I'm just going to sprinkle him. And he's another one of those guys that at 7,800, I don't think anyone's going to play him because there's guys like Brooks at 7,100. Why would you play him at 7,800? And then one guy that Alba is really high on that I like at the same price that I do have more than a sprinkle is Francesco Molinari, who I wonder if people are, because he's not a long hitter and everyone is on the Bombers, I look at the course fit a little bit, but at the end of the day, the skill is more important, and Christian will attest to that. That's sort of what the projections are built on, is just finding the most skilled golfers at the best prices. I think he will go under owned in GPP, so I like him a lot as well. I'll throw it to Christian to talk about Francesco.
Yeah, I totally like that take. I think it's right on. I think that Molinari could be under 10%, actually, which is insane, just given how bad the mispricing is. I think he's just going to slip through the cracks. I think he's going to name people like to play. I think I'm going to look at playing him in a lot of single entry stuff. Hope you aren't listening if I play against you in single entry. But great single entry play, I think.
Hey, someone let James say his guy because he wanted to say Molinari, and you just took it from him.
I took three guys. And one guy.
That's where I thought.
I'm a jackass. That's my fault.
All right. Well, yeah, I was gonna say Molinari. I like his skill set, but
it's okay to be in agreement. It's okay to be in agreement with Leone. It's all good. Even if Leone stole your thunder, it's all good. It's all good, baby.
I guess. Okay, my low owned guy is gonna be Adam Hadwin, who's just been really, really good these last couple. He's still way too far down. Of those guys that are below 7K, if I'm going to try to go both, because I think I'm going to go Day and DJ in most of my GPP builds, I'm going to need the relief and have Hadwin, and I like Molinari. And if I'm not going to have Koepka, then I have to find somewhere else around that price. So Hadwin, I guess, would be mine.
I like it.
Okay. All right. Hey, let's do one last thing. I know we're actually pushing the time and where we thought we were going to go, but we just got a reminder in Slack and a few questions here from Melk and from Drewby as well that had mentioned, what do you do when your partner doesn't make a one and done pick? But we just got a reminder that said set your one and done lineups. I actually have not set my one and done lineup yet, so let's just go through here and. Maybe you don't necessarily have to say who you're taking if you're trying to play like sharp and you don't want to level anybody or whatever. But thoughts on one and done? We're skipping Adam. I'm not even going to bother listening to him talk about Harold Varner again. So we're going to start with James because Mike shortchanged him. James, I know you're not in our one and done league. You joined a little bit after we started, but if you only, you know the format. Hopefully, if you get to pick one guy you think could win this week and you get to never use him again, who would you pick?
That's tough.
Sure, Logan, make the guy who's not in the one and done pool lead it off.
Yeah.
Mike, I'm trying to include him because you felt it was best to just jump right over him in the last section.
Hey, it's all good. Chill out. We're all right. I think I'd probably go Fano. I don't know how to pronounce his last name. But
yeah, pretty close. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with Mike. I like him a lot this week, and I think this would be riding kind of a hot streak. That would be where I would go because I don't want to use DJ or Day.
Right.
So I'd rather use Fano.
He gets it. Christian, where are you going one and done?
I'm gonna play like Sergio. It's like that's the type of guy I think I'd play. I mean, it's gonna be something like that. I'm gonna play pretty strong golfer here. Not like an elite player. I'm gonna save the elite plays for majors. And
Did you just say Sergio wasn't elite? Oh my god!
Elite. Yeah, I think he's like at best bottom of the top 10.
Hey, he just won a tournament on the Euro Tour. Like what? 3 weeks ago? 2 or 3 weeks ago?
And there are like 5 good players in that event, right?
Stenson was in that field.
What he finished? Stenson finished second.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
So, I mean, it was slim pickings there in that field.
I like Euro because you can actually predict the top. Like we've nailed Euro winners so consistently because so much of the field's eliminated right away. But I'm leaning towards Brooks as my one and done. Feeling a Brooks week.
Melk wanted me to tell you guys who he was taking, but now I can't remember who he said he's taking Patrick Reed this week. Just a heads up, Patrick Reed. So I'm gonna deviate probably from all of you guys. And unfortunately, I already used Molinari, or this would be a spot that I would use him again. But I'm looking in this range of players that Christian you might kind of question as to the legitimacy of falling into line when you're only picking 40 guys. But I like this range of guy like between Horschel and like a Scott Piercy. I know those are bad, but I'm behind. Mike, we're behind a little bit in the team rankings. We got to make a push. Crushed. We got to be a little bit contrarian here. And so, yeah.
Why don't you tell people part of the reason why we're behind?
This is crap, man. I picked JB Holmes, and apparently the site just disregarded my selection and gave me a 0, which was better than your
Kuchar pick. Disregarded your selection.
I see.
It was better than your Kuchar pick, and that was one of the other questions that Melk had. We'll skip over it because we're kind of wrapping up here. But he asked, "Why does DailyRoto have a boner for Matt Kuchar?" Christian, you should probably speak to that since these are your projections.
He's a very good player who is always underpriced, and if it was a different player that was always underpriced, that was as good as Kuchar, and Kuchar had the higher price, and we wouldn't playing as much. Like it's like he keeps on going off at unacceptable prices. Whether it was 2 weeks ago at 74, this week at 8, even last week at 8.6, I thought was like still not. I was still playing him there quite a bit. He wasn't in my cash team. He barely missed it, but the better question to me is why does DK pricing and Vegas odds not like Kuchar? I mean, in fact, a year ago we were fading Kuchar like every week because we thought he was overpriced, and then he racked up a lot of good data, and then all of a sudden we started playing him because he has good data, and like we think he's going to continue that good performance, right?
Yeah, it didn't happen last week. Nice humble brag on the not having Kuchar in cash. One of us here.
I had a lot of Kuchar though. I was overexposed. I certainly lost that.
I had Kuchar and Furyk in cash, and it was infuriating.
Yep,
I tried to do a pun, and I just failed. I hope Drew's not watching.
Yeah. All right. Hey, I think this was pretty good first run. I don't know if anybody watched. I don't really care if anybody watched. I do care, actually. You guys should try to watch. If you're like thinking about watching and like somehow hearing this, you should watch it next time. But anyway, I guess we'll sign off here. If you haven't already signed up for the premium projections, I know it's a lot of what we're talking about and the guys that we're talking about here. If you haven't already signed up for those, you can do so at dailyroto.com. GOLF Golf, 10% off the premium projections at DailyRoto. Every week, you catch us on the podcast on Tuesday night, and we're going to try to start doing these maybe a little bit more formally, less off the cuff next week, but still just kind of having a good time talking about golf. If anybody has any last words, anything? No,
I got nothing.
Okay.
I guess
Nothing.
we didn't hit Justin Rose, who I think is a really good play, chalky, but his price tag I think is egregious too. If you're going like hybrid studs and duds, maybe in cash you want to go like two of the double-digit price guys. He's another in that Sergio range that I like a lot to complement Day.
Yeah, we didn't talk about Rose. That's okay. We'll get him next time, right? We talked about Rose a lot last night. He's a great play. Justin Rose is a great play.
Yep, Rose is a good play.
That's all that matters.
Use him.
All right. I think that's good. I think we're good. We don't really have a sign off, but this is how we're doing it. Mike, kill it.